Okay, well, we're into a new week. It's March 19th. Hopefully, you participated in the Wearin' O' the Green for St. Patty's Day over the weekend and had a good weekend. But it's time to get started again in our class and moving forward. I will grade, well, let's see, I did grade the discussion. I'll get to all the constructive makerspace assignment information sheets coming up. Don't forget to also submit or plan and complete a constructive makerspace assignment, a makerspace experience for students as well before the end of the class here. So that's still looming for some of you. I think some of you have already done that. I know some of you have already done that, about half. And so for those who haven't yet, be thinking about how you can submit or make that experience, create that experience for some students, and then submit a reflection on that by the end of this class. So this week is on universal design for learning. And so we are moving into a new unit about this topic, about how universal design for learning works and so forth. And by the end of March 31st is a universal design for learning assignment due. And this is, I think, the last one that requires you to actually try it out for a group of students. So you have an opportunity to do this, to look at the universal design items and then to try them out in a group setting for your students. So for this project, choose an existing lesson plan. This is like your active learning one. You choose an existing lesson plan that you have created and or taught to your students, and your job is to add elements of universal design for learning to this lesson using technology. So this includes universal design for learning. You'll be learning, of course, about this over the next few weeks, but it includes providing multiple means of engagement, representation, and or action and expression for your students. This is adding a little bit of a differentiation, I would say, element to the learning. And you'll be learning about universal design for learning, but let me just go over what some of these mean. Multiple means of engagement means that there are different ways to help support students' mental engagement into the learning. Representation means that you are representing the material in multiple different ways. Maybe one way you're representing it is by showing it as part of a lecture that you give to your class, but maybe another way is having students go and do an activity that is an online activity or an activity that allows them to do it to represent the same material or to learn the same material in a different way. So that's representation. And then action and expression are the ways that students give the work back to you or show the work back to you. So if there's multiple means for that, then maybe they have choices on how they could submit an assignment to you, or maybe to express themselves in different ways based on different students. So it says, be sure to include ways that the lesson provides multiple means of 2 out of the 3 areas of universal design for learning. And be sure to use a technology tool or resource in your plan to support universal design for learning in your lesson plan. And then you are tasked with implementing this new lesson in your class and reflecting upon the experience. Now, as I said, it's due next week. That's pretty quick. But you have the option, of course, as with the other assignments here, to submit this later than next week if you need to. Let's say it just doesn't fit into the units that you're doing in your class this next few weeks and you want to go a little bit later, just let me know and we can have that happen later. So you're going to submit the original unchanged lesson plan and then the new updated lesson plan with the universal design for learning elements. And let's see, I think the big one to be paying attention to is that it includes a description of how universal design for learning is included in the lesson and how a technology tool or resource plays a part to support universal design for learning. And then the reflection piece, so after you have implemented the lesson in your class, you have a reflection piece that says list and discuss a few successes that occurred, a few challenges that occurred, and a few ideas for redesign if you were to teach this lesson again. So just again, it's inquiring you or asking you to be a reflective practitioner, someone who reflects on the experience that you implemented and what were some successes, what were some challenges, and how would you redesign that lesson. So that is the Universal Design for Learning lesson plan, and I believe, yes, that is the last assignment that you are required in this class to try it out with a group of learners. So Universal Design for Learning. All right. So now we go back to this week's activities. We're starting to learn about this concept of universal design and universal design for learning. One thing that to be aware of is well, we'll talk about it next week a little bit, but there's good research backing up this type of approach where you are able to allow different students to focus on different areas, or you're able to represent materials in different ways to students. There's good research that backs it up that shows that it does help for student achievement. One thing that we'll talk about next week is learning styles. And the learning styles material basically tells you that if a student has a certain strong learning style, that you must present material in whatever way that is, whether it's kinesthetically or auditorially or visually. And the learning styles research will tell you if a student is an auditory learner, for instance, or if they learn by hearing, then you must present all material, or all material will be presented or best learned by that student by hearing it. And there's not a lot of research that actually backs that up. It doesn't make sense anyway, and you'll see some videos about that, about learning styles next week. But with universal design, there is good research that backs up this idea that if you are able to represent materials in different ways to your class, so different ways to your class, and then also maybe different ways for different students, then you might be able to help them. And whether that is auditorially or kinesthetically or visually, or just two different ways visually, maybe there's two different visual ways you represent the material, that's fine too. So, and also with allowing them to actually create their own different types of materials to show their learning allows them to learn a little bit better too. So there's good research that actually backs up universal design for learning. Maybe not so good research about learning styles research. It's a little different of a concept that you'll be learning about. So to that aim, this week you'll be reading chapter 7, and it says and more, but I just have I should just make that chapter 7. So chapter 7 will be the reading, then you'll have universal design for learning instruction a little bit. There's a lot of reading going on with this as far as your learning of universal design, and then you'll look at principles of universal design. There's a nice little link there. And let's see, we go back to, and then you'll watch this video on universal design for learning as well. And there's just a nice little video about UDL at a glance. It kind of gives you a quick overview, and I think it's helpful to kind of attach your knowledge to. And then kind of the bulk of the work for this week is the discussion about how instead of learners being disabled, maybe curricula or curriculum items are disabled. So you'll have a discussion about that. That's usually a really good discussion every year. And so, yeah, it's interesting to think about how maybe it's not the learners who are the problem, but it's maybe the curriculum that we have available to us. So those are the activities for this week. Next week you'll get a little bit more in depth from the readings into universal design for learning principles. So you understand each of the 3 principles that we just talked about. And then also you'll submit your universal design for learning plan if you're able to finish it by then. So I think that's about all for this week for the activities. Let me know if you're not able to present this to a class, if you don't have access to a class. I know there are some of you there. So I'll come up with an alternative to the presentation part of the assignment as well for that. All right, well, have a wonderful week and good luck.